Hi, welcome to In Defense Of, the show where I, your host, CJ Siegfried, goes over a piece of media that is traditionally hated, and I try to convince you that it's good. Will I succeed? Probably not. But either way, I hope you enjoy the ride. On this week's episode, Not Cinderella's Type.
This is my life.
You're literally Cinderella.
So today we're taking a look at a movie called Not Cinderella's Type, and I genuinely doubt you've ever heard of it. Directed by Brian Brow, great name by the way, starring Paris Warner, Tim Flynn, and Tanner Gilman. I don't know exactly the genre that this movie fits in. I guess you could call it a teen romance Hallmark film. Okay, sounds like I can describe it. Audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, this movie comes out at around 64%. And isn't traditionally hated. I wouldn't say that anybody particularly finds it repulsive. If I had to describe the quality of this movie, though, I'd have to describe it as a midday, straight-to-TV movie that your mom puts on while you're playing hooky from school. Is it special? Well, it isn't exactly winning any awards or nothing like that, but I think it's special, gosh darn it. And that's all you need to know. So let's take a look at Not Cinderella's Type. What is it about? What is its themes and stories? Of course I'm going to tell you. Why wouldn't I tell you? Okay, so I didn't in the last episode, but that was just a pilot episode. This is the real episode. Take it easy on me, guys. I'm just getting started in this YouTube thing. Like all good movies, we start out with a voiceover.
My life was perfect.
We get introduced to our main character, Indy. Obviously, where the movie begins, life is good for Indy. The setup is pretty standard. Girl has mom loves girl, mom gives girl cat. Pretty normal stuff. Uh-oh, here comes the conflict of the movie. You know what happens to that mom? Well, she dies. Girl has to move in with aunt and uncle, who just turn out to be big old turds. I have to say, though, it's revealed early on that Indy's full name is Cinderella, or at least Cindy Ella, or something like that. And I have to say, if you name your kid that, you're asking for it. Like, what are you thinking? You can't name your kid after a story where the kid's mom dies and then expect to be fine. All I'm saying is if you name your son Bruce Wayne, you're a fool to think you're not going to die in an alley shooting. Also, I sure hope that's not a real cat. Jump forward in the story a couple years, we get introduced to our other main character, by way of cat murder. Our hunky Prince Charming stand-in for this story runs over Indy's cat, and Brian feels just awful about it. But guess what? So does Indy. Instead of pulling a John Wick and killing everybody Brian loves, Indy decides just to simply passive-aggressively not forgive him, which is understandable. Brian killed the cat. Speaking of which, this hunk of jawline is Maxton, and remember him, he's important for later. Instead of deciding to take an L on this whole cat thing, Brian tells himself there's more than one way to skin a cat, and he's gonna apologize to Indy, gosh darn it. Do you get it? Do you get it? There's more than one way to skin a cat, and he killed her cat. The next thing you know, Indy drops this bombshell on Brian.
That cat was the last gift I got from my mom before she died.
That's right, you tell him! I'm doing great so far. For whatever reason, this does not deter Brian. In fact, he becomes pushy and pushier, which, after some analysis, I think it's okay to be nice and sorry, but I think at some point it becomes pushy here, buddy. But eventually, Indy caves, and they go on a walk together.
You know, hitting your cat,
Murdering. You murdered my cat.
Technically, this situation, it wouldn't be murder. It'd be manslaughter. It's different. After this walk, the pair develop a rapport and a friendship, and they begin to see each other a little more often. And then we find out that Brian's mom is also dead. Wow. You guys should start a club. Indy goes back to school and is weirdly excited about this new Brian development and tells her best friend Maxton. Remember him from earlier? Because I told you to remember him. You were supposed to. Maxton has this to say about it.
The Brian Bailey. The guy you completely despise, who killed your cat and has been stalking you ever since, to apologize for destroying your life. That Brian Bailey?
Yeah, you tell him, Maxton.
But what did he say when you told him you already had a boyfriend?
What? Who?
Whoa, Maxton, reel it back. Stop it, stop talking. So turns out Maxton assumed they were dating because he was always there for her, she was always there for him, he's a guy, she's a girl, heterosexual relationships, and it's not exactly unreasonable until he pulls what I like to call a reverse consent right here. So naturally, Indy tells Brian about this, and Brian pulls an interesting Uno reverse card here.
But what about Maxton?
I think you should give him a chance.
What the heck? When did Brian become cool? So at this point of the movie, both boys are putting their best foot forward to try to win over this girl. And I have to be honest, it is weirdly wholesome and it is the reason why I love this dang movie. It's really genuinely cute to see two guys who understand they're in the same game, who understand they're in competition, and respect one another for it, while simultaneously trying to one-up the other, all the while never putting the other down. It's very respectable. But uh-oh, more conflict. Indy and Maxton get caught by a creepy neighbor at a soccer game or something. I don't know what soccer is. I'm an American. I watch real sports. And now she's in trouble with her aunt and uncle. They dish out verbal meanness and then begin to talk smack about Indy's mom, and then Indy just frickin' loses it. They have this big blowout argument where the things get way out of hand way too quickly. Okay, Indy goes up to her room and she's like packing all of her stuff. She's like, I'm jumping this ship. I'll catch y'all on the flip side, you dang jabronis. I think that's a very good line. But then she's like, ah crap, I have nowhere to go. So she calls Maxton. And Maxton, he meant well, but he fumbled the whole thing. So then she calls Brian naturally, and he's like, no worries, we're gonna jump ship together, and he comes and picks her up. But Indy's like, actually, I don't know if I want to do this. This seems way too much too quickly. But then Brian calls his dad, and his dad's like a therapist or something, and so now he has to take her or else he'll lose his therapist license. Which I didn't know y'all had like a therapist oath or something, but I guess that applies here. I don't know, I just make movie reviews, dude. I digress. Long story short, Indy ends up at Brian's house. From here, the movie resolves itself fairly quickly. She realizes she was meant to be with Brian, of course, not that Maxton wasn't great. There is some drama stuff that happens with the family here towards the end, but it's kind of just comeuppance for the bad guys. And then turns out Indy's mom had like life insurance or something, so now she's loaded. So good for her. And then, of course, Maxton and Indy stay friends. Before I call it on the sorry section of the video, I would just like to point out this absolutely alpha male Chad Maxton walking away from the camera. He nailed it. So let's get into what this video is about, right? Why do people not like it? Well, for one, the main love interest is really pushy, at least in the beginning. It levels out later in the movie and becomes tolerable because his tolerance of Maxton. It really levels out his character. But in the beginning, without a doubt, people saw that as less enduring and more pestering, which is by far the most justifiable criticism of this movie. The other one I see a lot for this film is the comment that says it's got quote-unquote bad acting. This criticism I have some serious issues with, but I'm going to get more into it later. And the other, of course, is quality of writing, cinematography, set design, costumes, the whole bit. But if you're not a movie snob, I don't think that's going to bother you. Now, in defense of not Cinderella's type. See, I said the thing. I don't do clickbait. I want to jump right into the bad acting thing that bothers me so much. Because it's not bad acting. It's young acting. For people who subscribe to this criticism, I have some news for you. There's not a single child actor in the industry, no matter how long they've been in the industry, that's going to come in front of a camera and give a Daniel Day-Lewis performance. They just aren't. After looking up these actors and how long they had been in the industry when they did this movie, they did a fantastic job for where they were at. And now, with the added benefit of being able to look at these actors' careers 5 years in the future after this movie was made, they're leaps and bounds ahead of where they were at.
You want me to shoot Mario?
I want you to do what?
Shoot Mario.
You're gonna do what to Mario?
Shoot him.
Who are you?
I'm Gino.
Who is he?
He's Mario.
And you're gonna do what?
I'm gonna shoot him.
And not because they just grew more talent, but because they worked hard and they put the time in, because they did movies like this. So the people who were so harsh about the acting in this movie, please do everybody a favor and quit trying to punch down and go watch some Oscar bait. Taking on the next criticism is that Brian's a bit of a creep and, at the beginning of the movie, that's not exactly too far off. But then there is this random moment in the movie that I mentioned in the story section where all of a sudden he's just really, really cool. It is kind of a weird writing decision, but you have to give credit where credit is due. They saw what his character needed and gave it to him. And then as soon as we get into writing, then we have to get into cinematography, lighting, costumes, props, the whole shebang. I can't deny this movie looks low budget. But if that's the hill you want to die on, know that this movie actually is low budget. They couldn't afford the best sets. They couldn't afford the best cameras. They couldn't afford the biggest crew. You can go down that list forever. Now, we have seen people take short films and feature-length films with no budget and make them equivalents of movies with millions and millions of dollars in their budgets. And I think in nowadays, the talent level is so high in the industry, we do get spoiled with that every now and then. But I think what we don't understand is we're in a special time of filmmaking. Those people who can make those and make them work are one in a million. I think the argument of it's not good because it didn't have the money behind it is kind of unfair. They did the best job they could to tell the story they wanted to tell, and I think they did it. As we wrap up this episode, I want to say this movie has a ton of heart. It's one of the few movies I can sit through that isn't an action epic, or comedy gold, or a character-driven drama. What I'm trying to say about that is this isn't a movie I would watch to begin with, yet it got my dumpster fire of a brain to sit in a seat and watch it all the way through and enjoy it. And I think it could do the same for you. Okay, everybody, that was In Defense Of, Not Cinderella's Type. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for making it this far. And if you did make it this far, can you do me a huge favor and go and like and subscribe? It would mean a lot to me, and I'd love to see you here more. I also think you'll like this YouTube channel. I got a lot of really big videos planned for the end of spring and coming into the summer. We're going to do more In Defenses Of. We're going to do more How to Fakes. We're going to have another whole season of Brains in a Jar here coming up soon. I think you're going to love it. So I'd love to see you stick around. But while I have your attention, let's take a look at what we're looking at next time on In Defense Of.
Rule the universe. Super Mario Brothers.
I hope to see you there. Again, I'm CJ, and that was In Defense Of. Hi, welcome to Chili's. And at least her cousins act as though inbreds. I don't know.